So, hallo und herzlich willkommen bei TheFifateers. Ich bin's, euer Bernhard. Schön, dass ihr auch heute wieder bei mir dabei seid, wie ich versuche, Spiele zu spielen, die über meinem Horizont sind. Naja, Stories, The Path of Destinies, wie sie jetzt, ist Gott sei Dank nicht so schwierig. Aber wer mir schon öfter mal bei Battlefield zugeschaut hat, weiß, ich bin kein Pro-Gamer, sondern spiele hauptsächlich, um Spaß zu haben. Wenn ich schon beim Thema bin, Stories, The Path of Destinies. Falls ihr bis jetzt noch nicht dabei wart. Es geht um einen Fuchs, der versucht, den bösen Imperator zu stürzen und seine eigene Geschichte immer wieder erlebt, zu Entscheidungen kommt, wo er sich eben entscheiden muss, ob er die Geschichte nach dieser Art und Weise weiterlebt oder nicht. Und da gibt es eben, wie sie jetzt, verschiedene Ausgänge. Und am Ende jeder Geschichte stirbt man zumeist und wird dann durch ein magisches Artefakt, das ist dieses Buch hier, am besten einmal zurück zum Menü, das ist eben dieses Buch hier, kommt man wieder zum Anfang der Geschichte und kann die Geschichte eben neu spielen. Es gibt neue Wege und wie es ausschaut, und das habe ich noch nicht herausgefunden, aber wie es ausschaut, muss man das eben auf 4 verschiedene Arten zu Ende bringen. 3 habe ich schon freigeschalten, das Grüne, das Gelbe und das Violette. Ja, und dann kommt man vielleicht wirklich bis zum Schluss hin. Am besten, ich starte und dann könnt ihr euch selber ein Bild davon machen.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer.
Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renata knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
So beginnt es eigentlich schon. Man muss sich schon mal entscheiden für eine von den 3 Möglichkeiten. Der Freund, der Lapino, ist wirklich ein Verräter. Das habe ich schon, ich glaube, 3-mal erfahren dürfen. Wenn er die ganze Welt zerstört, ein schwarzes Loch erzeugt und die ganze Welt zerstört. Ist bis jetzt auch 2-mal schief gegangen. Und das 3. ist ein Artefakt, das trägt das Böse in sich und du verwandelst dich auch zu einer machtbesessenen Bestie. Ich werde heute mit der legendären Waffe beginnen. Und mal schauen.
Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces deep. And then, this Emperor's horrific sacrifices had brought it back to the surface. Renato wasn't exactly sure how to use the legendary weapon. But surely, there must be some way to do it without provoking another catastrophe. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the Earth? It was more than Renato could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it.
Und jetzt zum Gameplay. Ich spiele einen Fuchs, der gegen Krähen kämpft oder Raben. Hat verschiedene Schwerter und muss mich meinen Weg durch gewisse Gebiete schlagen, mehr oder weniger. Es gibt auch so einen, wie soll ich sagen, Entwicklungsbaum. Da kann man sich Fertigkeiten holen, also mit Erfahrungspunkte und sich verbessern. Werde ich euch noch alles bei Gelegenheit erzählen.
As he set foot on the island, Renato couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Renato felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper?
Renato never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it?
So, in der Welt sind immer wieder solche Werkbänke. Schauen wir uns mal an. Dort kann man sein Schwert aufwerten. Wie ihr seht, habe ich schon alle Schwerter auf höchster Stufe. Außerdem kann man sich Juwelen anstecken. Ich habe eben diese 3 gewählt. Und es gibt aber noch mehr. Aber die habe ich auch schon alle auf höchster Stufe quasi. Also Stufe 3, mehr gibt es nicht. Nur zur Info, man hat, wenn Sie links oben schaut, eben das grüne Schwert, dann hat man das orangene Schwert, das blaue und das violette. Das grüne Schwert ist das Heldenschwert. Wenn ich das einsetze, kann ich mich selber heilen, was recht praktisch ist, da man sonst nur irgendwelche Gegenstände zerstören muss, damit man sich wieder heilen kann. Dieses Orangeschwert ist ein Feuerschwert und macht natürlich Brandschaden. Das blaue ist das Gegenteil, macht Eisschaden und friert die Gegner ein. Und das dritte ist ein Windschwert und das erhöht die Angriffsgeschwindigkeit. Ja. Ich benutze immer das Grüne, weil ich finde einfach heilen ist wohl besser.
Ha! Bet you never saw that coming.
Es gibt in der Welt immer wieder so Türen. Braucht man das richtige Schwert dafür, damit man es einsetzen kann. Dafür braucht man aber keine Energie oder sonst irgendwas. Man kann es einfach benutzen. Dadurch öffnen sich Wege, in diesem Fall zu finden. Im Prinzip ist es nur ein Viereckdrücke. Du musst aber darauf achten, der Gegner einen Angriff und den kann man rechtzeitig noch kontern. Muss man halt nur in die Richtung drücken.
That had been his mistake before, thinking he could win a battle of wills with an ancient evil all by himself. He had to be cleverer than that, or braver, or something. These platforms were great. Renato wanted one for his house.
Ihr dürft euch nicht wundern, sonst sammle ich wahrscheinlich sehr, sehr wenig Gegenstände ein. Und die Wählen habe ich auch schon und sonst bringt es eigentlich nichts. Da zum Beispiel könnte ich die Truhe, die werde ich jetzt öffnen und euch zeigen. Ah, da ist nur Gesundheit drin gewesen, normal sind so Erze und was weiß ich was drinnen. So, kann weitergehen. Und mit denen konnte man das Schwert aufwerten. Aber wie gesagt, jetzt komplett unnötig. Darum werde ich eher die Welten durchlaufen. Oh. Da war ich schon. Um herauszufinden, wie es wohl weitergeht. Mittlerweile, das habe ich jetzt noch nicht zeigen können, habe ich einen kriegt man relativ früh einen Ankerhaken. Da kann man eben so über Abgründe drüber springen. Recht praktisch.
Renato hated gogglers, but it freaked him out to cut them.
Es wird kein Gegner übrig gelassen. So. Das war mal ein perfekter Kampf. Bringt natürlich mehr Erfahrungspunkte.
See? With enough leverage, you could go anywhere.
Ich kenne dieses Rätsel schon auswendig. So, jetzt kommen wir zu einem Altar. Das ist der vorhin erwähnte Erfahrungsbaum, nenne ich ihn mal. Und da kann man eben Punkte verteilen. So, da ist dann Destinies drin. Meister der Zeit. Klingt nicht so schlecht. Und da ist
There
das
it
erste Teil.
was. Skyripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway.
The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Skyripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
Auch wenn es keinerlei Sinn ergibt, ich werde es trotzdem machen.
Renato asked himself why he changed course to confront Zenobia. He'd no idea. Sometimes he would just do things, and he could never figure out why he'd done them. Usually, they worked out. After all, he was a hero.
Wie sich mittlerweile herausgestellt hat, hat er Also ist mit der Zenobia in die gleiche Schule gegangen und da war mehr als eine Freundschaft. Aber sie ist die Tochter des Imperators.
The truth is, though, you wanted to see her, wasn't it? It had been a dozen years since Swordfu School. He'd followed every rumor about her, every scrap of news. Not that he still loved her. After all, she was his enemy. No, it was solely because, know your enemy. But it would be great to see her. Even if they faced off across sword points, as they'd done so many times at school. The world was a less interesting place without her.
Also werden wir unseren Schatz schon finden. Ich hoffe, das nicht weiter.
This was the nice part of town. But the ravens had been through here. They like to take shiny things home to their nests.
Einmal ganz Energie reinwerfen. Vielleicht finden wir hier wieder was.
Hero Wall. Hero Sword. Firewall. Fire. Extinguisher. He couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he? Two eyes good. One eye dead.
Renato wasn't entirely sure how he was going to capture Zenobia. She'd be expecting him. And he didn't have Lapino to cook up a clever plan. Why was it again that he hadn't got the core? Maybe because the results tended to be disastrous. These streets were familiar. The Swordfu School was closed now, but he had been down that street 1,000 times. He knew that pub. He knew that alley. He knew the alley behind it much too well. I wonder Zenobia had chosen to invade this island herself.
Wow.
Renato was dead tired. Then he was just dead.
Wahnsinn. Ist mir auch schon länger nicht mehr passiert. immer so gehen. Naja, wir werden schon lernen.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up on her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek, how soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She vanished, and he suddenly noticed he couldn't move except his mouth. In fact, soon he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He told Zenobia everything. Skyripper, the Iblistone, even where the secret rebel base was, until he was hoarse. It was some kind of truth spell. A talky truth spell. She called her father by Farspeaker Toad, and filled His Majesty in.
But why didn't he get the core?
Croaked the Farspeaker in something like His Majesty's croak. Because I missed you, darling. Renato grinned. He doesn't even know why, frowned Zenobia.
That makes no sense. It's a trap,
shouted the Emperor.
I'll meet you at the outpost, and I'll bring my interrogators.
If Renato came face to face with the Emperor, maybe he could assassinate him. But maybe it would be smarter and safer to turn Zenobia against her father.
What are you doing?
Asked Zenobia.
Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you?
He asked her. She shook her head. He told her. His Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him an eater of souls, an immortal. But to seal his bargain with them, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. She was stunned. Furious. You're lying. Under a truth spell? It's a trick. You can't prove that. Take me to the observatory, and I will. What kind of proof could you possibly have? She said as they landed on the Nexus. Your father ritually sacrificed a village, and he left witnesses? The scientists resurrected one. Well, it's not really alive, but it can talk. A true witness. She frowned. The dead can't lie. Well, I bet they could. They just don't have any reason to. She nodded grimly. You go on ahead. I don't want the Ravens to see me. There was an engraving. Maximum capacity, 130 people.
Nichts. Früher waren da Gesundheit. Eben. Ab und zu ist was drinnen. Früher waren da auch Erze drinnen oder Energie fürs Schwert. Gott sei Dank lädt es sich sehr, sehr langsam doch wieder auf. Dann wird auch mal die Kämpfe ein bisschen abwarten. sie nicht.
She caught up with him. Don't you think I'd know if my father wanted to invoke the Lost Gods? Would he tell you? No. Would you help him? No. I'd burn his books. Why'd he adopt a stray cat? You don't ask a thing like that. No. Not when there's no good answer, she said, her whiskers twitching.
Falls ihr euch wundert, warum ich überhaupt das Spiel habe oder wo ich es her habe, das ist ein Gratis-Spiel bei den
With all the secrets he revealed to the Emperor, the Ravens were probably heading for the secret base. Renato began to wonder if there would be anyone left to save, if Zenobia changed sides.
Den Schildbrecher rausnehmen und das Angriffstempo erhöhen. Mal schauen, ob das mir mehr bringt.
Renato was no physicist, but he could have sworn something was wrong with the trajectory of these cannonballs. Keep this between us, if you don't mind.
Nee, war schon viel besser. Jetzt. Oh, wir sind zu spät, wie es ausschaut.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The Ravens had burned the reanimated witness to cinders. Renato was stunned. There goes my proof. These were scientists, not rebels, Zenobia said, upset. Why would he do this? I don't know. Let's go to the fleet and ask him. Yes. I'll meet you on the mountains. There's something I have to get first. But could he afford to meet her in the mountains? He'd given the Empire the location of the secret rebel base. They would need rescuing. Why was he going to meet up with her? Wasn't it more important to rescue the Rebel Council from the almost certain Imperial attack? Why was he in this war anyway? Was it really to fight the good fight, or did he just want to see her again? One of these days, Renato thought, I should really figure out my motives before I pounce. Nah.
Die Sprüche sind teilweise recht lustig. Warten will ich nicht.
Was it true? Was he on this adventure just to see Zenobia again? The Imperial heir was not an easy cat to see. Well, she'd ignored all his Kwanzaa gifts. And on the other paw, trying to get a date by joining a war against your intended was, let's say, pretty optimistic. But on the back paw, thought Renato. Yes, it sounded exactly like him. Good. I'm so glad we had this little chat, he told himself. Those sheaves were really very well made, weren't they?
Aber das war ausreichend. Also eine meiner
Good thing
Fähigkeiten
Renato didn't have vertigo.
ist das auch, das sind die Juwelen, dass sie für jeden besiegten Gegner Energie bekommen. Was die Sache recht praktisch macht. Dann können wir gleich wieder heilen.
Now you're foxed. There were a lot of dead ravens along the side of the road. Someone had rampaged through here on a killing spree. What would Zenobia have gone to get? He had a chilling feeling it was the Iblis stone. Zenobia was level-headed. A stone could make anyone bloodthirsty. He could tell her style from the blade work on the dead bird.
Perfekt, das ist immer super. Das war wichtig, da kann ich mir wieder schön abheilen. gut gemacht eigentlich, muss ich sagen. Ab und zu ist sogar was Brauchbares drin. So, noch weiter, 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 weiter.
Renato wondered what he should do when he found Zenobia. What could he do if she had the Iblis stone?
Oh yeah.
He reached the summit, expecting no one. But there she was,
Oh yeah.
steaming, pacing.
I'm gonna kill him, she said. I'm gonna kill all his ravens, and then him, and then his family, and all the eggs and tadpoles. Then I'm gonna burn down their pond. Did you go and get the Iblis stone? You see, all these ravens I killed. So much power.
Yeah. Great, Renato said.
You really want power from a demonic rock? You want the stone, don't you? Not really. Good. I'd rather not have to kill you. He told her he loved her. That he wouldn't let the Iblis stone take her, even if he had to die for it. Well, he planned to tell her. Now didn't seem like the right time. She'd probably cool off in a bit. So he let her get in her ship and fly off.
He rushed back to the Farfarer and followed her, keeping a healthy distance.
Zenobia's ship was just visible through the clouds ahead. How could he reason with her? But he had to. The rebels were down for the count. No wonder. He'd betrayed the location of their base and then he'd abandoned them. And if she became Empress while she was in the grip of the Iblis stone, if she became Empress by murdering her father, she could still be a great Empress. But she could also be a nightmare Empress.
She had to be stopped.
There were more dead ravens along his path. Some of them wounded in the back. He knew she could have easily talked her way past them, or clouded the little tiny raven brains with a spell. She was going out of her way to kill everything in her path. This wasn't Zenobia. Not as he knew her.
The portal that led right into the middle of the fleet. It was a glaring weakness in the defense. Don't look down, he told himself. Don't look down.
So dann.
He really wasn't making a dent in those shields.
Könnte besser laufen.
Oh, now I don't have anyone to talk to.
So, immer weiter. Ich sollte... Also,
So, his beloved was possessed by the spirit of a demon.
Wow.
That's what it meant to be a hero. To brave the darkness in your loved one's soul. To have faith there was still good in her. To help her out of that darkness, no matter what the cost. But what? What could he do? She'd kill him if he tried to take the Iblis stone from her. Bye bye, life.
Ich musste das andere wieder nicht tun.
Hello, emptiness.
schauen, auf welche Art und Weise ich diesmal sterben werde. Das ist jetzt die letzte Welt. Schauen wir mal.
At the end of the trail of raven corpses was Zenobia. Her father was frantically rigging a strange apparatus wrapped around a glowing core. "Don't do it!" he shouted. "You'll hate yourself in the morning! Stay back!" She screamed in a horrible voice he'd never heard before. It froze him in his tracks. The Emperor stared at him. "Run," he told the toad, "or hop!" But he didn't manage to voice it, only think it. Zenobia stabbed her blade forward, and His Majesty fell dead. She began laughing hysterically. Or was she weeping? "Just walk away," she laughed at him. "I've no more use for you." There was something he needed to do, but he couldn't figure out what it was. So he did as he was told. As he walked away, he felt a chill in the world. The light in the sky seemed to dim. He didn't dare turn. He had a nagging feeling there was something he should have done just then. Something heroic. But he could not have taken the Iblis stone from her by force, and she would not have parted with it willingly. A cold wind blew from where she had been, but he still didn't dare turn. And then, an awful laughter filled the air, and all the torches and all the ships went out, and he realized what he should have done. But by then, it was too late to do anything. He should go back to some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up, like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. But he'd learned another true thing. Zenobia still had feelings for him.
Okay. Jetzt sind alle 4 Wege offen.
The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer.
Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Das werden wir gleich einmal jetzt machen.
Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause,
and maybe Renato could use that somehow.
Ah, sehr cool.
Renato couldn't quite put his paw on when he'd realized Lapino was working for the Empire. He'd never exactly seen Lapino sending coded messages to the palace, but he was sure. The rabbit had been on too many disastrous missions where he was the only survivor, or where he accidentally missed getting on the boat that went down to the abyss in flames. If Renato could prevent Lapino from getting back to the fleet with all the intelligence he'd probably gathered, it might be worth the trip.
Jetzt bin ich echt gespannt.
How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs.
Shall we dance? Could lead Raven.
Ich muss mal so konzentrieren. Nichts und schon wieder. Oh, 3 Modelle.
But he'd always felt that the rabbit resented him. Peppino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a happy camper. Ooh, was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice? There was a pleasant breeze coming through that door. Had it been closed before?
Okay. Mist.
This one contained nothing but unmatched gloves. And something more useful.
So, Stufenabstieg haben wir auch gehabt im Minimal. Auch nicht schlecht. Noch mehr? Oh, noch 2. 2 Punkte. Das wollte ich auch nicht. Keine Gegner.
Can I borrow that?
Fast perfekt. Wie war es in ein Gerichtsfrieden? Man kann nicht alles auf einmal schaffen.
Lapino would betray him, the core was dangerous. Renato had a fleeting idea that the two ideas went together somehow. And then it was gone again. Ah, damn ideas. They never... Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck. Now that he knew what the rabbit was, there were a few things about him that Renato didn't find so amusing anymore. You sent me an urgent message saying that you're in danger. Oh, I am. The ravens are coming. Now, I got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia. Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of, it was that the core of the Sky Ripper was dangerous mostly to its user. If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Isengrim III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it. Me? A traitor? I'm hurt, said Lapino. Why ever would you say that? We found your code book, said Renato. They hadn't, but he hoped Lapino would blow his cover. You got me, said Lapino. And you know what? I don't regret a thing. It's always about you, isn't it? You're the pretty hero. You get the girl, you get the medal, and what do I get? Rabbit food. I thought you liked rabbit food. Go to hell, said Lapino. And he made a gesture, and 20 ravens came out of nowhere and stabbed Renato to death. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it.
Okay. Das ist ja schnell gegangen. Wenn ich wenigstens eine Chance gehabt hätte, mich zu verteidigen. Das wäre sehr nett gewesen.
How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs.
Okay, dann machen wir das Ganze.
Do. But he'd always felt that the rabbit resented him. Lapino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a happy camper. Ooh, was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice?
Eine Abkürzung. Dauert zwar länger, aber
Ravens were landing everywhere from dropships. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, the rabbit would give the Empire all the intelligence he'd been stealing from the rebellion, and they'd probably give him a medal. He'd have to be very careful about how he played Lapino. At the slightest hint of danger, the mad rabbit would take off like a... well, a rabbit.
Wieder perfekt geframed. Jetzt haben wir einen richtigen Flow.
Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck. Now that he knew what the rabbit was, there were a few things about him that Renato didn't find so amusing anymore. You sent me an urgent message saying that you're in danger. Oh, I am. The Ravens are coming. Now, I got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia. Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of, it was that the core of the Sky Ripper was dangerous mostly to its user. If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Isengrim III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it.
In dem Fall werde ich mich wohl jetzt weiter.
Renato felt like a real hero, brave and smart. He told the rabbit all about the Sky Ripper's God's Eye core. "I'll go get the core while you attack Zenobia," he told the rabbit. "But wait, I've an even better idea. I'll get the core and you attack Zenobia," said the rabbit. "Right, yeah, that is better," agreed Renato. Perfect. The traitor would make sure the Emperor got the core. Now Renato just needed the Emperor to use the core. If he could only get something that the Emperor wanted very badly. Zenobia. He could save her and bait the Emperor at the same time.
Das wäre aber falsches Spiel mit Roger Rabbit. Also das ist nicht okay. Das ist nicht okay. Aber ich mag die Zenobia. Das ist immerhin mein Girlie.
Right. Now, all Renato had to do was fight his way through Zenobia's invading troops, sneak onto her ship and into her bedroom, and kidnap her without any of her dozens of guards alerting her. Then, he would rely on her love for him to convince her how evil her father was, so she'd run away with him instead of going back to her father, who was going to blow himself up. It did sound a little risky. But Renato had a feeling it would work out somehow. It always did.
Aber sehr gut. So, bringen wir Zenobia dazu, die Seiten zu wechseln. Haltet mich nicht auf so lange.
How could you convince a firewall you're its friend?
Shortcut.
"Say goodnight, Gracie," said Renato, wondering who Gracie was.
Lapino.
Renato was halfway to Zenobia's encampment when Lapino showed up. He was disheveled and distraught.
They jumped us. I barely got away. Oh, they got the core.
Oh, it was all going according to plan, thought Renato. Now he just needed Zenobia on his side. Yes, that was even better. The Iblis Stone. Zenobia could get it. And then the Emperor would have to pursue them. Wait. No. The gem would corrupt anyone. Even her. That's it, he thought. Even Lapino. Even though Lapino was already a traitor. It would turn him against his secret master, the Emperor. He would try to make himself Emperor. And the Emperor would have to defend himself with the core. Boom. He was a super genius. This is terrible, Renato told the rabbit. If only I had gone for the Iblis Stone. But now it's lost in enemy territory. He handed Lapino a map. It gives the bearer so much power. We can only hope the Emperor never finds it. What was that? Said Lapino. I think someone's following us. I didn't hear anything. Rabbit ears. You go on ahead. I'll check it out. And with that, Lapino hopped off with the map.
Lapino folgt vielleicht das nicht mehr sein. Die war großartig, sehr gut.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. She was curled up on her bed. He'd forgotten how beautiful she was, how sleek, how soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She was made of smoke, and he noticed he had a very solid blade to his throat. Did you really think you could capture me? Heard a familiar voice. I just wanted to chat, said Renato. Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? He needs a sacrifice. Someone who truly loves him, to make a bargain with the lost gods. That's a vicious lie. He wants to bring them back. Oh, that's crazy. Why would anyone... They could make him immortal. An eater of souls. And with that, her eyes widened. She understood. Renato told her how he had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred. How he had slept in a burnt village. At midnight, the Emperor's victims had come to him in his dreams to tell him of the hideous, eldritch rituals they'd been sacrificed in. He could still see those kittens and puppies. Their wide, sad eyes, their moist noses. You can't prove that. I've got a witness at the observatory.
Ob sie es einmal ausgehen wird?
He couldn't tell her, not yet, why he was really here. He didn't want her to be anywhere near the fleet when her father blew himself and Lapino up. So he told her about how the Emperor's obscene rituals had raised ancient artifacts out of the land. How he'd followed the appalling trail of the hideous horrors His Majesty had perpetrated for the sake of his own immortality. Any of this ring a bell? He said. He told me it was all lies. You've always known when I was lying.
I always hated that about you, said Renato. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them.
So, auf in den Kampf, Leute!
Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic? Why? Would you join in? No! I'd destroy his books and I'd... Oh, God. Okay, you're not completely wrong. They've resurrected one of his victims. Well, look, I mean, look, it's not exactly alive, but it can talk. A true witness, she said.
Oh, this really didn't have much in the way of safety features, did it?
Magical energy balls, immune to the laws of gravity. I'm sorry. Is that your shield?
This chest made music when you opened it. Too bad it was Muzak.
Und die kommen mal wieder zu spät.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The Ravens had taken special care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared at the carnage. He didn't want me to hear the witness, did he? I guess not. What's your plan? She asked. So, Renato explained his brilliant gambit. Sending Lapino to get the Iblistone, become super powerful and corrupted, provoke the Emperor into using the core against him, thus blowing up both of them, and hopefully the fleet too. Let me visit your council, she said, shaken. I want to help. Could he really trust her? He'd done it. He'd made Zenobia see how evil her father really was. He wished she didn't feel this urge to join in the rebellion. After all, he'd taken care of the Emperor, right? Yeah, but she'd always been conscientious like that. She told him she had to go somewhere first. So Renato gave her the location of the secret base, and they agreed to meet in the ruins. He had a very good feeling about this. What had Zenobia gone off to do? What was more important than meeting the Rebel Council? Had he made a mistake, sending her to the ruins? No. He knew they could trust each other. He could trust her because she never broke her word. And she could trust him because she could see right through him. Well, she'd probably be there well before him. She at least didn't have to fight her way through rainstorms of ravens. He thought about Hypatia. Oh, she'd been an amazing rabbit. She could talk to him about comics, and talk to her son about history and battles, and talk to scholars about the ancient tomes hidden deep in the vaults of the Library of Rubar. Oh, Renato really missed her.
Wieso kann es nicht immer so laufen?
As he came around the bend, there was Lapino, unconscious on the side of the path. And Renato could smell a familiar, sweet, smoky scent. Who? Zenobia. It had to be. She never used a combat spell when she could use drowsy gas. That meant she had the Iblistone. What would it do to her? She hated her father now. She'd kill him for sure. The council wouldn't mind if she killed the Emperor, but murdering her father would destroy her. He had to get to whatever ledge she was on and talk her down from it.
You blinked.
The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. everyone in the council chamber was dead, Zenobia stood shivering in the courtyard, drenched in blood.
Why?
He managed.
They started arguing with me. I lost my temper and I wanted their blood. Not me. The stone did. Why did you take it from Lupino? I had a plan. You had a stupid plan, she said. I'm going to go kill my father now. No, you can't. You'll just take his place. You'll become worse than him. Get out of my way, or I'll kill you too.
You won't kill me, he said. And I won't let you kill the Emperor. Enraged, she raised the sword.
You hate him too?
He could sense the Iblastone, yearning for his death. But she didn't strike. If you kill him, he'll destroy you. I know you.
Shut up!
She shouted, her sword trembling.
I won't lose you again.
Not for anything.
Get away from me!
He said, and he was very close. I can't lose you again. And he was in reach of her sword now.
I hate him! I hate you too!
I love you, he said for the very first time. And then she was weeping. He was holding her. The sword had dropped from her hand. He glanced at the Iblastone. It was no longer the black of the void. It looked like coal. No. It glowed. Like a cinder. It was crackling, burning, crumbling into ashes. You've always loved me, haven't you? She said. She was weak. The stone had taken so much from her. Always, he said. She staggered as he helped her up. Let me take you away.
Where?
The island of Avalon. The sisters will heal you.
He'll follow us.
Then we need the Farfarer, the fastest ship in the Empire.
Schön. Liebesgeschichte, Anna.
The Empire had seized his ship. They'd have to take it back.
Das ist auch neu.
The portal was heavily guarded. It must go someplace they really didn't want it to go. Zenobia was in no shape to fight. But he never fought so well. He wasn't fighting for money or loot or a cause. He was fighting for her. For them. His sword danced, his feet flew, and the ravens recoiled from his ferocity.
A chest full of old banana peels. There had to be more. There was.
there were stickers all over the platform for really hot lady foxes, with pictures and addresses and everything.
Gewährt. Und
And there it was, his beautiful skycraft, the Farfarer. They would fare very far indeed, beyond the Empire, beyond the reach of the Empire, to the mystical island of Avalon. He didn't know exactly where it was, but he knew he could find it. And they would find peace there. Second star on the right, and straight on till morning, laughed Zenobia. And they laughed together for the first time in a long time.
schön. Echt gut funktioniert eigentlich. Oh, der war schön. Gleich bin ich da, Wolkenwanderer. So los. 100.000 gegeben oder was?
But they did not go unnoticed. Scout ships lifted off, and the long lance of the Imperial flagship. Bernardo turned downwind to gain speed. The Raven ships could pursue, but they couldn't close. The Farspeaker croaked, "You return her and live!" "Go sacrifice yourself," yelled Bernardo. "Then you won't have her either." On the flagship, the Emperor was readying some arcane weapon. It couldn't be. It was the core. A devastating beam lanced out of the flagship. Bernardo zigzagged wildly to keep the Farfarer out of it. Now the Raven scout ships were closing the distance, and the beam was getting closer too. Then came a blinding flash, and the air was searingly hot all around him. There was a thunderous, deafening roar. He could smell burnt oak and burnt feathers and burnt flesh. But when he could hear and see again, they were alive and unhurt. And they were alone in the sky. Zenobia embraced him. They had done it. Through luck and through love, they had won the war. "Avalon, here we come," he said as he held her arms wide in the prow of the boat and let her feel its speed. "Maybe the real Avalon is wherever we're together," she said. And so, after a bit of an argument, Reynardo and Zenobia went to one of the two Avalons. The one shrouded in mists, or the one in their hearts. But which one they went to, I'll never tell. He'd done it. He'd forged his own destiny. Well, he hadn't actually done it. But he knew what he would do. Reynardo smiled at the book. He practically wanted to kiss it. The kid's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. He'd saved the book and saved the world. Reynardo owed him and his mother so much. Reynardo lowered the mainsail and let the Farfarer shoot forward in the breeze. Second star to the right, and straight on till morning. This time, he would win.
Cool. Sehr, sehr cool. Natürlich wird der Abspann übersprungen. So. Ja. Schauen, was jetzt noch passiert. Falls etwas noch passiert. Theoretisch gäbe es ja noch einige Sachen, die ich aufdecken könnte. Aber ich werde es für heute sein lassen. Ich bedanke mich, dass ihr wieder zugeschaut habt. Am Freitag werden wir wieder Divinity spielen. Es würde mich freuen, wenn ihr wieder dabei wärt. Und falls nicht, wünsche ich euch einen guten Rutsch ins neue Jahr. Ich wünsche euch allen viel Erfolg und Gesundheit. Und wir werden uns wiedersehen. Also dann, schönen Abend noch und gute Nacht.